The week-long engagement with the private sector in agriculture that included farmers, leaders of farm organizations and agribusiness players along agricultural value chains, government ministries and departments, research organizations, universities and many more, ended with recommendations that were forwarded to the high-level executive roundtable.
I think we seem to have delegated our thinking role to people we think are experts from outside, who have sought to be leaders in thinking, or thought leaders. We have turned ourselves into thought followers. The thought leadership is elsewhere. We should take the driving seat or driver's seat in the planning of our economies, and certainly our agricultural sector. Well, the people who are gathered here cannot think of a project in agriculture. I get surprised. 50 years after independence.
The roundtable had the task to articulate the recommendations into big idea actions with a mission of taking the agriculture sector to a higher level of performance and competitiveness in the global economy. This roundtable involved ministers, chairpersons of parliamentary committees responsible for agriculture, from the national parliaments, as well as the East African Legislative Assembly, CEOs of private companies, leaders of farm organizations, NGOs, regional and international organizations, and CEOs supporting agriculture in the East African community. While opening the round table, the Speaker of the East African Legislative Assembly, Margaret Nantongo Ziwa, reiterated East African Legislative Assembly's commitment to the development of agriculture in the region.
At the regional level, IALA is keen on the promoting of the development and endorsement of the regional CAADP program and the regional investment plan as key instruments, and I'm pleased to report that the ESC is about to finalize both documents. Allow me also to mention that IALA has also initiated a bill to promote cooperatives and the farmers for the farmers of East Africa. It's named the East African Community Cooperative Bill 2013, and I'm sure we shall be able to take it expeditiously through the legislative process, and we shall be able to pass it, and this will be a very important legal framework to promote cooperatives in the East African region and also to enable our farmers to enhance their production.
On his part, the Deputy Secretary General from the East Africa Commission Secretariat, Charles Njoroge, said that the symposium was intended to find solutions for improving agriculture for the future and how youth in the region can be interested in taking up agriculture.
East Africa is rich in natural resources and human resources. We have all necessary ingredients for integrated, transformative agricultural development. I'm glad that the symposium has demonstrated conviction and optimism in terms of what needs to be done to reach the desired prosperity. Moving from the past and focusing on the future, the symposium has illuminated on crucial drivers, dynamisms, and challenges for agricultural transformation in the region. Some of the issues that the symposium has underscored include, among others, agriculture as employer, the demographic, the role of the youth, among others.
Participants in the round table made contributions on the recommendations on what they thought was needed to be adopted in the final document, to be handed over to the Council of Ministers of the East African Community and Heads of State.
In Uganda in 2007 we started production of the Agricultural Finance Yearbook, and it has really caught up a lot of interest around the world. We get, people in request for this book, in Kenya and FAO and all over around the world. And this book is very brief, and it really has innovations in agricultural finance, how others have succeeded using which risk mitigation strategies, and we think that it's a very good innovation, just considering that the demand is now so high. If people look, rather than just telling them do this, when they look at how others have done it, So I would suggest that such an innovation can be carried forward by the East African Agriculture Finance Network. They've always thought about it, and it could be good because now we even have innovations from Kenya, the other time we had from Tanzania, so it would be good.
A regional agriculture.
Yes. Yeah, the East African Agriculture Finance Network could take up that, and then we have a regional information hub.
It's really the mandate of government to ensure that we have cheap and affordable financing for agriculture. Because when we leave it to banks, their source of finance is from the international market and multilateral partners, so you cannot maintain a low cost. Uganda has that example, and Kenya as well, where government subsidizes the bank risk and the cost of finance comes down. So at an East African level, we should agree that government must budget and ensure that there is adequate support to ensure that the commercial banks can bring the cost of financing down. I think even at the present 12% is too high. It shouldn't go beyond 5%. That's a recommendation.
We as East Africans, considering the resources that we have, the natural resources, we are coming to say we must manufacture instead of importing them. But how do we do this? There must be a concrete proposal, a sellable proposal to the funders, the African Development Bank, that we in East Africa think this is how we're going to manufacture the fertilizer.
Joint manufacturing project, for instance.
The East African community had done a good job of setting up centers of excellence in the region. I would think that probably the agricultural institutions or universities and colleges could do better in the region as an action point, where they focus on certain areas of where they have core competences to be known. So I think as a region we could focus on those areas where we could have an edge over others, and then even in resource allocation we give these areas a higher probably priority so that we can spread it over East Africa, but also have areas where we are known that we are the best.
As the week-long symposium came to an end, the organizers were of the view that they had achieved their main objective because they focused on what succeeded in agriculture in the last 50 years and what did not succeed.
So our first objective was what succeeded in agriculture during the 50 years and why. The second thing was to know what did not succeed and what went wrong and why. That was our first part of the objective. Can we put together the lessons of our 50 years of independence in agriculture? And we did that one perfectly because we had excellent researchers, excellent speakers who interrogated our history of agricultural development in East Africa. And they were able to come with evidence of where things worked and why. So that one was delivered perfectly. The second objective was to say, after learning that, after seeing what happened or did not happen in the last 50 years, what prospects and plans should we have going forward to develop agriculture in the EAC, especially to do it now as a single economic community. That one, I'll give it 70% delivered. We still got some work to do. Now, why do I say 70%? I think we got from this discussion this week, especially from the youth, very good discussion and very good insight of what is possible, what is necessary, and what needs to be done. That one was delivered.